Hi, everybody. Welcome to a special, and I mean special edition of Conversation with Calvin, We the Species. I cannot tell you how long I've been looking forward to this. And we're actually bi-coastal now because Papa is Jersey and Jeremiah is LA. So this is coming to you live. And this is, we've been just BSing for the last almost hour, just kind of getting acquainted with Jeremiah, who kind of blows my mind. Of course, Papa blows my mind. We did an interview a couple months ago. But this is so important. The work that Jeremiah has done in creating this Welcome to Purgatory Highway, this music video, which will be in its entirety after this interview is done. This is one heavy, magnificent animated music video. Magnificent. It takes you on such a journey visually, which Jeremiah did. And Jeremiah is the son of Poppa John Bug. But there's so much more to unpack about Jeremiah, and we did this whole discovery, the stuff he does, and he'll talk about it at some point, the goodness tour and the work they do all over the world, bringing music and art to places that are very difficult, i.e. Poland and Ukraine or the Bahamas or Haiti or wherever, just beyond, or Puerto Rico, but beyond the work that he does. And so it thrills me that I have the opportunity to share this and to bring this, the work that you both do. Because Pop and I, we did Where's America when that came out and released, and I've watched that. I can't tell you how many times I watched it because I love it.
And he brought it to life with the video.
Yeah, just magnificent, earthy, and such a powerful song. But anyway, I'm hugely honored to be here with you guys, and I think the best thing to do is if you each one of you do a quick little bio, just to kind of talk about yourselves, and then we'll jump into some in depth, because I already did Papa.
He did me,
In depth
already. You go first.
work with
You want me to go
Jeremiah.
first?
Yeah.
You go
Who
first.
are
Okay.
you?
Okay. So my name is Jeremiah, sometimes known as Jeremiah Alexis professionally, Jeremiah Alexis Verdecias. I'm a man of many names, but basically I am a producer. I'm a person that can edit, I can write, I can conceptualize. I've done that for the last few years. Prior to my current direction, which is more of a director editor, I was a music journalist for about 10 years. I worked with everybody from Vice magazine to Vibe magazine to Red Bull was my main client. Worked with them for 4 years.
Oh.
And, pretty much my background in my life is also as the son of a musician. And my uncle is a pretty famous, well-known musician named Perry Farrell from the band called Jane's Addiction. So that opened me up to going to music festivals at a very young age and being around musicians and being around that kind of lifestyle. So, being a music journalist, it kind of drew me into that orbit that I could kind of get paid to be around these people and talk to them in the way that I kind of did naturally and grew up doing. So that was an amazing experience. Did that all the way up until around 2017. And then, we had talked to Calvin earlier off camera about my role at Twitter. So that was a really kind of a leap for me because I went from writing music journalism and also doing on-camera interviews to being a writer for a show. So I was able to kind of parlay an interview. So basically, I got interviewed as a host for this show, and they really liked me, but they didn't necessarily think I was right as a host for this show. But they thought, wow, you really know how to write. You really are an ideal person for a presenter to maybe produce a presenter. So why don't you come work as a writer? So I ended up just getting this job as a writer. And it was for Twitter's first live streamed show. So they had basically pretty much decided they were going to do a live stream show. I think BuzzFeed was doing one at the time and pretty successful. So Twitter's in 2017, they decided to launch a live stream show. And I ended up writing all 52 episodes. It was a great experience. learning how to write episodically, learning how to kind of work with other hosts and kind of coach them and be a producer. And that was amazing. And after that ended, my life took another kind of extreme turn, and I ended up getting hired as an editor. I had always edited my own videos when I was a music journalist, but I had never really edited for a company purely as an editor. But a friend of mine started his own production company, and he and I had worked on a few projects together. And he just was like, "Look, man, why don't you come aboard? You can kind of be under me, and I can kind of guide you along the way." And that was an amazing experience. That led me into the pandemic. After the pandemic happened, I never stopped working, which is pretty lucky, considering a lot of my friends in the entertainment business pretty much were out of work for a year and a half, So all the work I had done as a music journalist, all that would have been ceased if I had had done that course of action. So being an editor, learning how to edit and being behind the scenes really paid off, because I ended up working as an editor for this show that was funded by a very rich gentleman, very nice guy named Ken. The show is called 110 Football. I worked on that for 3 years, actually. And the funny thing about that, it's a weird thing, Calvin. I don't know what happens, but for whatever reason, I end up getting these behind the camera jobs, and I end up being on camera. I don't know what. The universe is just calling me to be on camera, and even when I don't feel like I need to be. But I ended up being the first season. I worked half of the season as purely behind the scenes, and then one of the kids in the scene got injured, and it was during COVID, so they couldn't just call up another actor to be like, "Hey, can you do the scene?" So they knew I had an acting background. They're like, "Jay, what do you think? Can you kind of be in the scene?" And I kind of concocted a character in the moment. I was in the scene. They loved it. And then I ended up being on the next 2 seasons of the show as one of the primary characters, Uncle Jay. And then the third season, I ended up going back behind the scenes and working behind the scenes and doing just production. Uncle Jay died a silent death because they completely formatted the show. But so that led me up to, actually, we talked a little bit about the Goodness Tour and the work I do with them. It's a nonprofit that I've been working as a co-owner of, co-founder for the last 10 years. I do it along with two good friends of mine, Luke Raynaud, who is a pretty well-known singer in the world of kind of folk and pop where they meet. He used to work with Jason Mraz, who's a pretty well-known artist.
Wow.
And then Benjamin is my other co-founder, Benjamin Suarez. He's an amazing muralist. He's painted all over the world, from Africa to India, and done amazing social programs. So the three of us, founded the Goodness Tour. And so, once the show ended for me, it's just funny how the universe always kind of has a way for you, even when you're in despair. Because when the show ended, honestly, I was a little bit of despair because it's been like nearly 3 years of my life working on a show. And when it ended, I didn't have a backup plan. Normally I have some kind of backup plan, and I did not. But, the funny thing is the universe kind of always shows you a way. So it just so happened to dovetail as the show ended. This Goodness Tour opportunity happened for us in Poland. And we were able to, all three of us, for the first time in years, go on a Goodness Tour together. The last time we had all been on a Goodness Tour together was the Bahamas, which you talked about in 2017, I believe that was. That was while I was doing the Twitter show, actually. I was able to go to Bahamas and do some work there. But for the last few years after that, during COVID especially, I didn't do any Goodness Tour stuff. We couldn't even leave the country, really. So, it just didn't make sense. And Ben was living abroad. Luke was in the Bahamas with his wife. So, like, the Goodness Tour was not happening for me. So this opportunity happened, and it was an amazing opportunity. We went to Poland. And then Ben was able to go across the border to Ukraine. He was able to paint 2 large-scale murals there. Calvin, if you want to share a link or something on this, there's a video that perfect. So there's awesome. Appreciate that. Yeah. So that video is out there. I edited and shot that whole video, and didn't appear in much because I was behind the camera. But you'll see Luke and Ben, and Luke's awesome wife Sophia's in it, and Ben's awesome wife, Amanda, who's also an amazing painter. And so we all did that, and it was incredible. And then, I came home, and once again, I was kind of like, where do I go now? Because it was all just kind of happening to me. And I called up a friend of mine to talk about, what he was up to, because he's an editor as well. And he was like, man, you got to check out this thing I found called Midjourney. You're going to love it. It's AI art. And I was like, what? was like, what's AI art? This is in September of 2022. And he goes, AI art, man, it's going to be the biggest thing. Like, you watch, everyone's going to be talking about it in like the next few weeks. But this just came out and I've been going crazy with it. So I was like, all right, well, let me check it out. And I was hooked like pretty much instantly, like to be able to basically. So let me explain basically what it is. So
is AI art involved in this?
correct. So that entire video, Purgatory Highway, that I directed and edited for my dad, that is all done in artificial intelligence. It's called Stable Diffusion. So I'll explain that video. I'll explain how we got there. But first, I didn't get into video at first because it wasn't really developed that well. So that's just the crazy thing about AI. It literally from September till October, September to November. I was completely focused on this program called Midjourney, which just does stills, right? So you were able to do stills, like you say, like, I want a beautiful warrior ninja with a giant sword chasing after a goblin in a forest, right? And then it generates that. And it's not perfect. You need to kind of really be able to have Photoshop skills because it'll do weird things with the fingers and the eyes will look weird and it won't be perfect. The sword is not perfect. The face is not perfect. But with my skills of Photoshop, I'm able to take a Midjourney, maybe do like 3 or 4 versions, and then take it into Photoshop and perfect it. So I did about 8 pages of a graphic novel, and that was a lot of work. It took me about 2 months to really figure out how to do that. Mainly, the tough part about the graphic novel is you have the main characters, but in Midjourney and in AI in general, having each art that it generates, each piece of art generated, look the same as the last is tough. And then also, like in a comic book, you have the character from this angle, you have the character from this angle, you have the character lifting his hands, you have the character doing all sorts of things. So to be able to generate images of the same face doing different things from different angles is very challenging. So I was able to figure out how to do that. Mainly, it's you staple their image to a celebrity, because how AI works is it is a huge collection of information from the internet, and it kind of just scrapes all this information from the internet. And when you ask it a question, or when you give it a prompt, I want a tall, light-skinned black woman with a giant sword chasing a goblin, it kind of like marshals its forces around the internet and all the information that it's gathered, and starts taking one dot and connecting it to another dot, and then all these dots are now connected, and then ding, you have this image. So I was doing that for 2 months and just completely in a wormhole. And my poor wife was just like, what are you doing with yourself? Because I became obsessed with it, and I really was focused on it. So what ended up happening was I learned about the video aspect, and I became, of course, obsessed with that. It took me about a month to really start figuring it out. And then just so happened, it connects what happened in Poland and Ukraine with the AI. So another non-for-profit funded us to go and shoot video in Poland and Ukraine. And so that nonprofit, once they kind of funded that, they then took the finished film, which is not the one that's online. It's a 15-minute version that I'm developing now to make it a 40-minute version, a short film. And I'll get into that later. But essentially, at first, it was very loose what they wanted. They kind of wanted something that had to do with their theme, which was Ubuntu, which means like, it's a South African word, which means connected humanity. So I was like, wow, this gives me an opportunity to actually do a film with AI video right away. And I spent a month learning how to do AI video, and I made several short films. But once again, the universe has a way of kind of like taking you off of what you think you need to do and taking you to another place. After a month of working on this and really, really digging deep and going into the void of this, they told me, hey, look, we love it, but that's not what we want. We want you just to focus on Poland and Ukraine and your video there, and make a long version of what you already did, which is that 5-minute video that's up. So that was kind of heartbreaking because I spent like a month working on all this stuff. And, it was cool. It ended up being really great. We showcased this film for Mission Joy, which was this really cool kind of online festival with many different people in the kind of spiritual arts. And so we showed this film to people from all over the world and got a lot of great feedback. So when that was done in the end of November, I really, really wanted to do something with AI video. I really wanted to do something. And I had done a few videos for my dad. As you know, you covered Where's America. I did Zeus's Anger Roar and a few other videos. You said, yeah. So after that, like, you know, one thing that's interesting is that I found that with the AI video, you can generate imagery within just the AI. Like you can say, I want a monk floating in space with a lotus flower, and you'll get something, but it's not exactly what you want. It's like a facsimile of what you want. And you can keep on putting that prompt in, changing it slightly. You won't ever get exactly what you want. But there's a caveat because within the AI, you can also do something called video input. What video input is you shoot your own video. You edit it the way that you want it to exactly be, and then you run it through the AI like a filter. So what I realized was I could shoot something on my iPhone and I could edit it and add effects to it, and then it won't look great because it's kind of pasted together. But when I run it through the AI, it not only looks cooler because it adds like one exact like animation like filter over it, but also it adds little things that you could have never guessed. So like for instance, there's a scene in Purgatory Highway where my dad is dancing with a group of dancers, and that's actually my wife and her dance troupe, and they had like cool colored contacts, and they were just kind of like dark demon, you know, fairies, and he was kind of like, you know, playing with his guitar, and you know, and when you look at the iPhone footage, it looks it's not the coolest scene. Like it looks, oh, that's cool, you know. So I had to really do a lot of kind of little touches to it. I added like, you know, horns on his head, and I did all these little things, and then I run it through the AI, and now you have an animation because now the AI starts adding little things like little effects and little things you would have never thought. So there's a part in the video where it's a close-up of my dad singing, and his face is changing very rapidly into different kind of demonic faces.
Yes.
So yeah, so that's what the AI does. It kind of like does frame by frame animation, but you can't expect it to necessarily like do. Oh, you can't expect it to do like perfect spot on. Like it still has a little bit of a wild card. But when you use video input, you can almost kind of tame it and make it do what you want. But you have to have editing skills, and you have to be able to kind of composite things and do that kind of work. Wow. So that was a labor of love. You know, there wasn't a big budget in that, but I was really obsessed.
You jacked it up.
Yeah, I was like, look, Pop, we got to go from 150 to 350 because this is going to be a lot of work. And it was 2 months, 2 months of work.
$50.
Yeah, I made my dad work with me at a LAFC game. I had a side job working at the LAFC game, and I made him work for $50. Take some money off that sky high budget that we have for video.
But that's okay. I had fun doing that.
Yeah, so that, you know, the beauty of what we have capable to us today, Calvin, it's quite amazing that like I've never done animation before because it's very expensive. It's not easy to do. It's not something that every single person has the capability to do. But if you have a decent speed computer and you have some technical know-how, you can make an animated video today for very little money, maybe even like $10, because that's how much it costs to do a cool
video. $10 video. That's what I want.
Wow.
Yeah, but the labor's not $10, buddy. And the know-how is not $10. That's for sure.
Wow. Poppa, why don't you jump in? We're going to come back to Jeremiah shortly. Just do a little background. I can say I've known Poppa for like 12 years since I was involved in music. And we kind of bonded, and I've been watching him, and he's been watching me, and we've been together a bunch of different times. His music is amazing. His photography is amazing. So
paparazzi.
Yeah, paparazzi. I got that name.
Yes.
Actually, I came to New Jersey because I wanted to join a band, and the band said you got to be sober. So they got me out of my apartment, 65th and First Avenue, and that's where the song Purgatory Highway comes from. I was stuck in this underground we call what do we call it? Shadowland. I lived in the shadows you know, and I was in a addictive environment, and I wanted to get out. And the guy says, "Come to Jersey. We'll get you a rooming house." Got me a room. Had a couple of bags of clothes and put just things in storage. And I came here, and I started my sobriety journey. And in that little room, I wrote a lot of my songs. I wrote a lot of songs. So "Where's America?"
Yeah.
When I saw people on TV screaming, there were the floods all over, and they're screaming from the top of the roof, "Get me, save me!" You know, the Superdome. You know, that's where is America came from. And Melinda was uh, a song I wrote with my friend David about the characters in Purgatory in Shadowland that we met along the way. There were a lot of people that were doing the same thing I was doing, you know, and well-known people. We won't say who they are, and people that were just struggling. And I was able to get out of that environment, clean myself up, and start a new life. You know, I started a new life in Jersey. I was away from the people, places, and things, and I got involved with the Jersey Jazz and Blues Foundation. You know, a little bit with that, and Exposure to News 12. I used to do the Red Bank festivals there.
Right.
And next thing you know, I'm all over the place. You know, I got on we started working. I got a budget together. I met, you know, Gary Wright, and I met Chuck Lambert, and I met all the blues people, you know, working as a volunteer at the Jazz and Blues Foundation. I started to network with other people. And I started hitting all the open mics with Carol Barberi. I mean, Don Lee ran the first one in a place called Blue, Café Blue, in Belmar. And from there, I moved on, and I worked my craft. I mean, my songs weren't together. I had this weird recorder. I had a 4-track cassette recorder, but it had a lot of demos. And then I met my friend Greg Berger, who actually introduced me to a better sound system. And then eventually I had a budget and met everybody at Jamion's at the Sunday Night Jam, and extended that from Thursday night downtown with Alan Manzo and those people there. I just networked with so many people, Sandy Mack, and next thing you know, I'm able to produce a record in 2011. I did my first EP, and then we did the full album in 2014. Had a great show at the Saint. We had a lot of celebrities come in, and eventually down the road, I was able to do the second album, which is, you know, Forgiven. And that turned out to even be better than the first one, instrumentally, and people like it a little better. You know, as I do more albums, I get better skills because a great engineer like Joe DiMatteo at Surefire, you know, this time we're going to take a different route. My son bought me time. Well, these kids bought me time as a Christmas present. Thank you. At the Lake House. So I'm at the, you know, the $1 Million studio. But, you know, I'll do that. But I'm going to bring everything back to Joe DiMatteo, who knows my music, and he'll edit everything back to where it should be.
Right.
You know what I mean? But we're going to do tracking at the Lake House, and then move on back to Surefire, and complete our mission there as far as the third album. How do I get into photography? Carol Barberi used to run the mics. She used to take pictures, and I had a little box camera, and then I had a phone, you know, and little by little I evolved. I started with Susie Graham, you know, John Posada. I used to go to the Sunday nights. Actually, it was Tuesday night at McLuhan's down in Asbury. Yeah, we used to have the, and I started taking pictures, and little by little, you know, Dennis Zoon, take the bad ones off, keep the good pictures on. Yeah, I didn't know, and I just threw all the pictures on there. And finally, I got
still do that. You still do that, Pop.
Oh yeah, they get weird on me, but you know, I'm a musician, not a photographer. But I was able to develop 10,000 people following my pages. You know, so I got enough people there. Just, you know, little by little, as you do your networking, I do my networking with the music as well. And I put people together. I've had so many guest artists. We're putting together we have a basic George Art, and, you know, Alex D. They're basically my producers now. Gary Wright was the producer for the first album with Mike McKernan, and we're just evolving. And as we evolve, we get better at it, you know. That's and right. As I take more pictures, I get better at it.
Yes, you do.
So
I've been watching you take pictures for 12 years.
Yeah.
And almost everybody you mentioned. I used to go to McLuhan's Tuesday night and hang out.
Jane Haas used to show me ankles, you know.
You were on the dance floor.
Yeah, I was on the dance floor. I'm a dancer. I dance. I carry a small camera, not a big one, and it fits in my pocket. I'm able to carry my instruments, and I always document the people coming to the shows, not only the musicians on stage, because I like to see the smiles. And as soon as I walk into the room, Poppa's here, and they all start posing. I go here, there, everywhere. They're screaming out on the microphone. 10 string the other day, I was at Jamie's. Poppa's in the house. Exul. Poppa's in the house. So next thing you know, we have a gathering of people that don't know who I am, but all of a sudden they're posing for me.
Oh, because you're an icon. I mean, you're an absolute. You are. So
thanks for the compliment. So that's me.
Let's. It's not you. We could.
There's more to it, but
your history, and I just want to remind folks out there that I interviewed Poppa a couple of months ago, and we introduced Where's America, and we talked all about the
environment,
all about his environment, and I'll have a link when I promote this, so people can go back and look at that video, because your journey through music, through Richie Havens, etc., is extraordinary. But let's go now. I've got some questions for Jeremiah, and some of these may be a little redundant now because you. But I don't have the ability to edit. So what in the first place, what got you into arts and media? So you come from New York.
Yeah, absolutely. Come from New York. You know, my dad has always been an artist. He's even after his kind of career ended with Richie Havens and traveling and touring, he would always, be in the living room with his headphones on, playing his bass. And he had a great record collection. And, so music was always a part of my life. But, when I was about, 7 years old, I got introduced to my uncle, a guy named Perry Farrell, my mom's brother. And, he's a pretty wild guy, very successful man with Jane's Addiction. And he brought me to Lollapalooza, my first Lollapalooza, when I was like 11. And I just was blown away. I was this little kid from New York, this kind of city, not suburbs, but more like the inner city New York kid. And I went into this music festival, and there were these crazy rock stars playing in front of all these like kind of hippie people dancing and dancers on stage and with pyrotechnics. And it was just such a eye-opening thing for me. I was just like, whoa, I want to do something like this, So that was the very first kind of introduction, to the larger world of entertainment. And it being my uncle, I think that a lot of times people are drawn to things when they can see it happening in their real life, Like, of course, everybody wants to be an actor. Everybody wants to be a musician. But if you have an uncle or a brother or a father who's an actor or a musician, I just think it becomes much more likely that you'll follow that course because you have someone that you can directly see doing that, and it just makes it more real for you. On top of that, you have some resources that you could potentially tap into because of that. And I did. I went on tour with my uncle. I ended up going to South America, the first Lollapalooza. I did a short documentary on Perry for this company called Current.com with Al Gore. That was my first kind of like really professional job as a filmmaker. So yeah, that's kind of like, I'm kind of straying, but to answer your initial question, that's kind of what led me into it. Just having, seeing my dad, seeing my uncle, kind of like going to festivals at a young age. It just really opened my mind to the possibilities of what could happen in my life,
Okay. This whole world of AI, as I start to learn more about it, it's beyond my age. It's not for me. It's for your generation and younger. But what do you see as the future of art utilizing AI?
Right. You know, I get a lot of artist friends and people who in general who are artists, and they kind of look down on AI, to be honest. You know, they think that it's gonna, you know, take over their job if they're an illustrator, or it's gonna, you know, kind of like create a world where artists aren't necessary. But I disagree. I think that AI, if as an artist you're able to utilize it, it actually is a humongous tool and an amazing superpower. Because I'm someone who's not an artist in that, like, I can draw something and copy it pretty good, but you know, then to pencil it in and color it and do all those things, that's just not what I can do. And so, but I've always wanted to make a comic book. You know, I've always wanted to create like a graphic novel. And so within a month and a half after learning I was able to create a, you know, like I said, 9 pages of a graphic novel, and, you know, really create a potential avenue for myself. And now it actually led to employment. I'm working with a company called weed.com, interestingly enough, and I'm creating shirts for them. And I'm creating flyers for my friends. Like, as far as, like, I'm also a DJ, so I'm able to create flyers for my shows. And so I think as an artist, if you can utilize and harness the power of AI, it's an incredible tool. And I think as an artist, you actually owe it to yourself to learn AI and to not just be like, that's trash. Oh, I never want to use that, because it allows you to really become a superhuman. Like, you can go from like taking all day to draw 1 page to literally being able to draw 3 pages in one day, you know? So it's quite incredible. And I think that it's the future. And much like with anything, you know, the future scares people. I think the very first time Dylan played an electric guitar, people were freaked out by it. And how many people wanted to, you know, boycott Dylan, and Dylan was, you know, a sellout and all this stuff. And now fast forward 15 years later, and everyone playing an electric guitar, because if you don't, you're out of the time. You know, you're not on it. You're not playing the Moog synthesizer. You're not with it. You're not with the times. You're not with the future. So I think that, you know, it's like anything, when a major shift happens, people get scared and artists start, you know, kind of downgrading it. But I really hope and I always, and my artistic friends, I'm always telling them, learn this tool. It will allow you to have a superpower. And even though you might be an amazing illustrator and amazing digital artist, this will take it to the like literal superhuman level, because I can do that and I'm not really an artist. So, and I'm really good at Photoshop, and that is the saving grace for me. A lot of times I meet a lot of people in AI, and there are like coders, and they are like these kind of geeky dudes who are not very artistic, and they can do 100 generations of something on Midjourney, and I can do maybe 2 and then Photoshop it to make it perfect. And that's the advantage that I have, and anyone who has artistic skills in that realm. I don't know if that answered your question, but
Well, it did. Just curious, who are some of your influences as an artist, growing up and currently?
Yeah, so I'm heavily influenced by fantasy, like the movie Legend with Tom Cruise, and where he played like a young boy, a young prince, and he went against darkness itself. You know, Tim Curry played that role amazing. So stuff like Legend, fantasy, you know, stuff like Lord of the Rings. You know, I love all that kind of fantastical things as a kid. You know, before cell phones and the internet, you know, I'm on that generation that was right before all that technology. So I used to read tons of fantasy books and loved it. And then I would watch a lot of anime movies. So that's the Japanese style of animation. Manga is the comic book version of that. So I was a huge anime fan. I was always watching anime, renting it from Blockbuster, which is another dinosaur that's gone the way of
remember that
the dinosaur. Blockbuster, man. I used to love Blockbuster, rent anime movies, and hang out with my friends, and we'd watch these really crazy movies. And so I love anime, you know, Ghost in the Shell, you know, Ninja Scrolls, Akira, like all those old school animation. And then like new stuff, you know, I love Studio Ghibli. You know, the cool thing about having a daughter, I have an 8-year-old daughter, is that I'm able to kind of pass on some of my loves to her. And one of my loves is animation, and she loves animation. Like, we watch Studio Ghibli all the time, like all the different movies, Howl's Castle, and just so many amazing movies. Every single one they have. I mean, I could just rattle off all the Studio Ghibli movies. But yeah, animation, like even Disney, Disney does a great job with animation. Like, I just love cartoons. So it was an amazing shift for me to go from someone who doesn't have skills, excuse me, in animation, and to be able to make a whole animated video. And I don't know if my dad's told you, but that video, Purgatory Highway, is without a doubt the first blues and rock video in AI that's done in AI, the very first in the genre.
Wow.
I don't have a specific
I'll be famous
number.
one day.
I mean, look, man, history, when you look back at the history of AI music videos, bro, you're going to be in the top 10. But, like this is, like I said, this is still a technology, Calvin, that wasn't really in existence up until around September, October of last year. So it's just really crazy. It's so new, and so many people kind of have heard about it peripherally. Very few people know how to harness it and do it. And so, when my dad kind of like, when I started talking about doing a video, I was like, I got to use this AI animation because I want him to be on the cutting edge. And even though his music is awesome, it's kind of a throwback music. It's kind of like 70s and 80s kind of vibes, with the, kind of funk and rock and roll. And it's great. I love the music, but it's definitely from a kind of like a different time, a past time. But that's the beauty of synthesizing this AI with that kind of music, because now we have this kind of vintage sound, but we have these cutting edge visuals that are completely new and are 4 or 5 months old as a technology. And it's out there, and I hope more people see it, because I think it really is a very interesting usage of technology. And it's a fusion of vintage and the new futuristic world that we're all going to be in very shortly.
Jeremy, it reminds me of when we first did Manhattan Cable, when they only had 2 cameras in Manhattan. Remember you came on the show with me? And the DJ show? Yeah, in the beginning, I was in Manhattan Cable with my friend James Booty Neal. We got into the studios, and it was only one Manhattan Cable. And that opened up the doors for every single cable country in the country. 2 cameras. We were on TV. He was actually a small kid. I think you were around 10, 12 years old. And you went on actually around 10. You went on TV with me. You were playing something, the small guitar. I was playing mine. And I mean, it was very, very rough, but that was the first cable TV shows. And look at cable now.
Wow. Yeah. What was it like, Jeremiah, working with your dad on I guess the world's first AI animated video?
Well, it's not the world's first AI animated music video. It is the world's first AI animated music video in the blues and rock genre.
Okay.
Let me just make that specification.
Okay.
I don't want to say something that's false, but it's definitely in the top maybe 20, 30 of AI music videos that have ever existed. It's maybe in the top 20, as far as like actual that exists, full length videos. Anyway,
okay.
What was it like working with Pop? It was really cool. It was like, we've worked on a few videos before, but what was special about this one is at first I had a plan to do a completely remote. Like, I wasn't going to shoot any footage with him in the video, because I didn't think like he was going to be around me to shoot it. And I didn't think it was going to take that long to do, because I knew he was going to be in LA in like a couple of months, but I didn't think like I would take 2 months to do this. I frankly thought I would be very quick with this, but technology, when it's that new, it's a little buggy and it doesn't always do what you want it to do. So it took me some time to really harness it in the way that I wanted it to. And so, by the time Dad came, I hadn't done much of the video. I'd only done a few, like maybe 30 seconds of it.
And we didn't plan it either, right? The park scene
it was
with
just
the
like,
girls. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Like, it was just all kind of happened. Like, I was like, Dad, we're going to shoot this video. And it just so happened that my wife was shooting a video,
yeah,
for her dance troupe. And so I was like, all right, Dad, we got backup dancers, they got cool costumes. We're gonna use this, we're gonna use this moment. And then we just basically I made a makeshift green screen in my living room and used my iPhone and just filmed him. And it's pretty incredible because like I also use footage in there that's like what's called it's called stock footage. So you can get it, you can buy stock footage, or you can, subscribe to a service, and then you could be like, all right, I want a man driving on a lonely highway, and there's like 3 or 4 videos of different angles of a man driving on a lonely highway, right? So that's what I did for a couple of his videos, actually, for Where's America, and You Said I use stock footage. But for this one, I was like, all right, well, I'm going to use some stock footage, but I'm going to try to mainly use Dad and have him be in the video. And also I was able to throw his musicians in his band, so that was really cool. He sent me a video of them, and through the power of my editing skills, I was able to kind of take them out of the background, add some crazy effects on them. I made one of your guitarists a cyborg, and I made your pianist like a flying angel, and so I did all this kind of effects on these guys. But point I was making is that we had no idea we were going to have him be in the video, and then it just worked out great. And then because we kind of figured out a pipeline, we figured out a system, I was able to get him to be at home and just film home with his phone, and it looks just as good. And like, if you look at some of those shots, some of those are shot with really high-end HD cameras, because that is the stock footage, right? Like, they shoot that with very high-end cameras. It looks like, a commercial, or like a movie quality video, right? And then I'm shooting my dad on my iPhone with a green screen. It does not look like movie quality, but because of the process of AI and because the animation all makes it look kind of like one quality, it doesn't matter. Like, I could shoot with a crappy little phone, as long as there's enough light, on the subject. You get, the AI can read the eyes, it can read the mouth, it can read the hair, and it can output something that's really awesome. And you don't need an amazing, $50,000 camera. You could do it with your phone.
iPhone 13. That's what I use.
So it's like a democratization in a way of media, like people are thinking that this is actually some kind of, corporate takeover of media, because, a lot of the AI is being issued by like Microsoft or Amazon's getting into it. And, all these big tech companies are getting into it. But as of now, at this stage, it is an open playing field, and it's very inexpensive to learn how to do it. The YouTube videos are all out there. I learned on YouTube. I went to YouTube and just watched, tutorials, and, it's kind of hard to find some of these, but if you dig, you could find it. If you look, you'll find. And so, I have the capacity to be a deep digger and to get into the void. And so I spent, like I said, three months being in the void of AI, figuring out how to use it. And now I use it professionally, Yeah. I use it on other videos. I'm making t-shirts for weed.com right now. And so, it's really amazing what it can do for you as an artist. You can really open up a lot of doors, if you really take the time to figure out how to utilize it.
Wow. We could talk for a couple more hours on this. We won't. The last, you already touched on the Goodness Tour. And I want to say 2 things. At the end of this video, there is Welcome to Purgatory Highway. That's the entire video is going to be here for people to see. That's number 1. I've invited Jeremiah to come back to spend a whole show here talking about the Goodness Tour.
It took us a while to get him.
Yeah, the work you're doing is beyond, and in one small way, I want to do my promulgation. And
thank you so much, Calvin. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I can give a little bit of a background to the Goodness Tour, if that's all right. Just because if we're gonna do a full one later, I'm not gonna get too deep into it.
Well,
but just to let people know,
you're on your way to a trip too, right?
Yes, actually, I am on my way to a trip. I'm going to Montserrat, which is a small island in the Caribbean, and it was famous because actually I think George Harrison had a studio there for years, and sadly it's also famous because it had a major explosion that completely destroyed half of the island, the old capital city. Used to be about 30,000 people that lived there. Now there's only 5,000. But they're building. They built a new capital and they're growing. And so we've done some work in the Caribbean before. We worked in Puerto Rico and the Bahamas and St. Vincent. And so a volcanologist, a woman who actually works with volcanoes, is on Monterey and saw the murals in St. Vincent, which is not too far of a trip from Montserrat. And she was enthralled with who did this, who made these murals. And so she found out that Benjamin, who was my partner, one of my partners, was the artist, and his wife Amanda did the murals. And then I'm the one who runs our social media for the Goodness Tour. So she reached out to us, and we just started talking. And I told her about a film training program that I'd come up with. So in addition to being a filmmaker and a producer, I also spent a lot of years as a teaching artist. So I worked for LACMA, LA County Museum of Art, for about 4 years. My wife works there now. She's been there for almost 20 years. And so I've done a lot of teaching art work there. I've worked in schools. I also did a lot of that stuff in New York. So I have a big background in teaching as a teaching artist. And one of my passions is, in the Goodness Tour, is figuring out how to utilize film as a way of healing, because we utilize music, we utilize art. And basically the core of what we do with the Goodness Tour is music and art for people facing extreme adversity. We started out with the homeless population in California, and then from there we've now worked with kids in shelters, abused women and their children. We've worked in children's hospitals. We've gone to disaster sites quite a bit. That's become a big part of what we do, like natural disasters. And also now that we've been in Poland and Ukraine, refugees of war. And so we've seen the power of art to heal people that have gone through extreme adversity and extreme trauma. And so I'm extremely interested to figure out how to do that with film. And I find that when you film people and you give them a chance to talk about their lives and really give them a chance to tell their story, it's a cathartic thing. And then when they can see themselves on camera, it's an inspiring thing for them, because now they're kind of seeing themselves. And in the way that you see a movie star, you see someone on TV, and that's really exciting. You're seeing yourself on camera is exciting. Seeing people that look like you is exciting. Representation is important. And, just to kind of dip into the AI realm real quick, representation is important. And that's why a lot of the AI art that I do is of people of color, because I've run across a lot of AI artists, and, it's something that's in technology, and, inordinately technology is kind of dominated by white males. And, it is what it is. Like, it's not, a controversial statement, I don't think. And so as someone of color, as a man of color, I really make it a point to, when I render my work, to have different people, Latino, Black, Asian, like everyone, like, of course, Caucasian, everyone. I want to represent the world and the cross-section of people that I see in my life, as a person who is mixed race. My mom is, Jewish and, Eastern European. Obviously, my dad is Latino, Black. I'm 14% African. I just found out through my Ancestry.com. So I really like to, in my work, really represent a wide cross-section of the world. And in the Goodness Tour, we've been so blessed to be able to go to Puerto Rico, Cuba.
We lost him. Well, you know what? It's fine. You know what, Poppa, we were just winding up anyway.
Yeah, he'll pop up again, but like anything else, you'll edit whatever.
Yeah,
you edit.
Well, I don't do any editing. This is all natural, and it's fine.
But he's doing good work, and if he pops up in the next couple of seconds.
Yeah, and it's fine. But I'm going to end this recording. You
right.
Stay on. Don't leave. I'll end this, and I'm telling everybody, please stay tuned for this. It's coming right on. It is an amazing journey of a video.
I'm headed for the sun. Purgatory Highway, survival on the run. On Purgatory Highway, I'm headed for the sun. Got to find an exit and save this lonely one. Purgatory Highway, Purgatory Highways. I'm on a Purgatory Highway, headed for the sun. Purgatory Highway, survival on the run. Don't know how I got on this lonely road of doom. I only know I've got to get off real soon. And when will I learn to love someone? When will I love myself and thank that man above? Purgatory Highway, Purgatory by highways. Purgatory Highway, the van just passed the tube. Purgatory Highway, not a second too soon. A Purgatory Highway, my soul